PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
It's Kim versus TC in the battle of the lists.
My list is better.
My list is better.
My list is better.
No, it's not. My list is better.
Kim or TC, who has the better list? From Subject Cinema, this is Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and TC Kirkham.
Hey guys, welcome to another week here on Front Row 5 and 10, brought to you by the good people that bring you Subject Cinema. That would be me and him, the me being Kim Brown.
And the me being TC Kirkham.
Yep.
Professional film critic.
Oh, Lord. It's going to be one of those
It's
shows.
Pretentious Week.
Yeah. Yuppers, it is. Yep.
Front Row 5 and 10 is a Subject Cinema's weekly list show, and we hope that you like what you listen to. So please like, subscribe, and share with everyone on Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere else. Come on board as a Patreon patron, and don't forget to email us with your ideas for lists.
Yep.
We'd love to use them, and if we use an idea contributed by a listener, you get a prize.
Sure will.
You can do that by writing to us at frontrow@PNRNetworks.com or subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com with the tagline Front Row 5 and 10.
Yep. This was your idea for a list.
It was.
It was.
I thought we could have lots of fun with this and piss off a lot of our friends, too.
Probably.
Our top 10 most pretentious films we've ever seen.
Yep.
Now, how do you define pretentious? Actually, give us the dictionary definition and then tell me how you define pretentious.
Because I decided to be proactive, another long word. I looked up pretentious in the dictionary. The definition of pretentious is attempting to impress by affecting greater importance, talent, culture, etc., than is actually possessed. End quote.
Okay, that's really good. So how did you define pretentious for making your list?
I defined pretentious as a film where I just felt like I came away from it feeling like you tried way too hard. You know, you tried way too hard to get a point across or make a statement. You know, whether or not that statement was, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, or, ooh, look how clever I am as a filmmaker. You know, I mean, there's subtle messages, and then there's beating people over the heads with things. Mm-hmm. That was basically my take. And it's also the fact that all of these films I didn't like.
Okay.
None of the films on my list are a film that I can honestly say I enjoyed.
Okay.
So, there's that.
I define pretentiousness in much the same way, but it's also sometimes pretentious can be pretentious on purpose. And when you have that, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad film. 3 of my top 10, I would actually recommend that you see at least once. And one of them actually made my Baker's Dozen list.
Well, I'm not saying that they're bad films. I'm just saying I don't like them.
Yes, well, if you don't like them, then they must not be terribly good films. You're an incredibly good judge of character that way.
Well, some people wouldn't think so.
I do have some runners-up, and I'll get to those in just a minute. Mm-hmm. But let's kick things off, and let's see how Kim's top 10 pretentious list pertains to her well-being and thoughts as a film professional.
Right. Anyway.
I don't even get any props for that.
Okay, good Lord, you sound like a pretentious twit.
Thank you. Okay.
Right. My number 10 is a film that I think is some people are gonna go, what? But I'm sorry. Number 10 for me is American Graffiti.
I thought you liked American Graffiti.
I didn't hate it, but I did feel like, what is the big deal with this? You know, I came out of it feeling like, meh. You know, I really don't understand why this film is considered the be-all, end-all look at that specific time in American history in the early 60s, you know, and the whole cruising down the street look with your car so people can look at your car and be all impressed and stuff like that. You know, it's considered a seminal coming-of-age film, and I'm just kind of like, eh. You know,
well, part of that is because it made stars out of so many people that were in it.
I know.
Ron Howard, Cindy Williams, Harrison Ford, Suzanne Summers, Mackenzie Phillips, Charles Martin Smith, a whole bunch of people.
I realize that, but I just kind of felt like, you know, I've always...
None of whom were teenagers at the time, except Mackenzie Phillips,
except for
by
Mackenzie,
the way.
Yeah. Other than that, I was just kind of like, okay, you know, it's an interesting little film. But, you know, people that refer to it as this be-all, end-all, coming-of-age story, I'm like, really? You know, I mean, a coming-of-age story to me is something where something, you know, deeply soul-shakingly profound happens to you, and you graduate from being a child to being an adult. You know, this film is just people driving around and trying to get laid. Big deal. My number 10, American Graffiti.
Okay. My number 10 is a film that Kim and I were very split on when we saw it. I loved it. She hated it. There's a big difference in the way that it's done. Because, as I said, sometimes pretension is done on purpose. And this is one of those films. It was actually written by the eventual writer-director of the feature film as a student film, as a senior thesis, meant to be a parody of pretentious films of his generation. He succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, and I still, to this day, and most other critics agree with me, that this film is truly a work of art in the actual presentation, which is confined to one 2 or 3 room area in one house. But it's also slyly funny, very irritating in some places, and evocative of the best possible pretension of European films of the 2000s. And it made my Baker's Dozen list in 2014. My number 10 is Ramon Zurcher's debut feature film, The Strange Little Cat. There goes the nose. The Strange Little Cat is a brilliant, understated, pretentious comedy about a single family getting ready for a family gathering in the evening in their suburban German home. I'm not sure which city they're supposed to be in, Berlin or where. The Strange Little Cat of the title is actually a MacGuffin, because he's not in the film that much. It's more about the people. And sometimes the people are hilariously funny. We get a lot of subtle humor. Kim didn't find it. I did. I was on the floor. She was like, what is this crap? The Strange Little Cat follows, as I said, the day in the life of the family. You have the little deadpan boy who seems to be obsessed with the cat. Is he supposed to be doing that? You have the older sister who is back home from college for this get-together, talking with her brother and doing very subversive things behind their somewhat uptight mother's back. You have the uptight mother herself, who clearly does not enjoy motherhood and clearly probably shouldn't be a mother, but she's resigned to being such. Yeah. And you have the little girl who screams every time one of the appliances is turned on. It's outrageously funny. It is hella pretentious, and it's supposed to be, and it conveys it. And I would recommend that you see it if you get a chance. Number 10, The Strange Little Cat.
Okay. See, I found that film pretentious and everybody in it completely unlikable. But that's just...
It's supposed to be that way, though.
I guess.
Yeah.
Number 9 on my list is going to probably piss some people off. My number 9 most pretentious film is Barbarella. A science fiction film from 1968, directed by Roger Vadim. Barbarella is the story of a space adventure. It's based on a French comic. I'm sorry. I realize it's at one point this film was probably really shocking. I mean, I know when this film came out, people, like, you know, there were tons of people that were probably clutching their pearls and being like, think of the children, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm just kind of like, nope. I've seen it numerous times, and every time I watch it, I find something else about it that annoys me. Because I keep telling myself I must be missing something, and every time I watch it, I finally was like, you know what, I can't watch this anymore because I've gotten to the point where I'm teetering on annoyed to actively dislike. So before we get to that point, I'm going to step back. Mm-hmm. It's just there's so much about this film that just screams we're trying to be artsy, you know. And I realized it was the 60s and everybody was doing wheelbarrows full of drugs.
And it was Mario Bava, who's never been known for artsiness. Isn't it?
No.
Well, who did that then?
It was directed by Roger Vadim, produced by Dino De Laurentiis.
Oh, it was De Laurentiis that was involved. Okay.
Yeah, it's based on, like I said, it's based on a French comic by Jean-Claude Forest called Barbarella. I'm not saying that Jane Fonda's not beautiful in this film. I'm not saying there aren't some very stunning shots in this film. But for the most part, and I'm not saying that John Philip Law is not insanely hot as the blind angel Pygar. How an angel is supposed to be blind, I have no idea. Because, hello, it's an angel. Anyway, I'm sorry. The more I've seen this film, the more times I've seen it, the more my pretentious level keeps tracking up. And I was just finally like, that's it. I quit. I'm not even going to try anymore. So my number 9, Barbarella.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Yep.
You've always said that when it comes to documentaries,
yep,
there has to be something made a bad guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every film has a villain. It doesn't matter what the film is.
Okay. The one thing that irritated me about this film, well, actually more than one thing, was number one, the way it presented itself as, oh, we know best. We know what's best for you, which immediately gets my dander up. Mm-hmm. The second one was the fact that, according to them, the villain of the piece is everybody, humanity in general. Mm-hmm. And they dared to invoke the name of one of my all-time favorite documentaries and compare itself to it.
Okay.
Koyaanisqatsi.
Right.
That was a definite no-no for Surviving Progress. Surviving Progress, the plot line reads, theorists consider the evolution of human society and question the sustainability of the current paradigm.
What?
Yeah. Basically, it's all humanity's fault that progress is where it is and we all need to go back in time.
To do what? Live out of caves?
Mm-mm.
You know, wear animal skins? What are they talking about?
It's a little bit of everything, but the whole thing is, in order for us to get into the future, we have to take a step into the past. And I'm like,
I'm sorry,
okay.
Where I come from, they call that backsliding.
This came out in 2011, 3 years after the third film in the Scotzi trilogy, Ne Q Scotzi, came out from director Godfrey Ruggiero, and he did it a lot better. Basically, it's saying, humans are bad, we can't do any of this stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is done in a very climate changey, ecology way, which doesn't help their case with me, because I hate being preached to. If you can sit down and show me the facts that don't conflict with other facts, mm-hmm, then I'll listen. To preach at me is a no-no. And this film was executive produced by Marty Scorsese. who is an idiot for doing that. I'm sorry. Number 9, Surviving Progress.
I mean, it's not to say that we shouldn't look back on the mistakes that we've made as a people and look back on them and say, well, we're not going to do that again. You know, but...
No, I agree.
But to go back as in live in the past, that's asinine. You're going to be pissed off at my number 8 because you liked it, and this is an example of trying too hard.
Uh-oh.
What I mentioned at the beginning of this in what I consider to be a pretentious film is a film that tries too hard to be whatever. Mm-hmm. If you try too hard to be funny, if you try too hard to be sexy, if you try too hard to be scary.
We get it, okay.
This film breaks the biggest cardinal sin, in my opinion, if you try too hard to be campy.
Okay.
Camp should come as naturally as breathing.
Okay.
If it's forced, color me gone.
Okay.
My number 8 is the 1967 version of Casino Royale. Directed by...
It's an acquired taste. I'm the first person to admit that. I think
by
it's
a
hilarious.
committee, which is never a good idea.
But it's got Orson Welles in it.
So did Transformers, the movie.
Okay, fair
Your
enough.
point? Casino Royale, the 60s version, and I have to stress that, is their attempt at a James Bond camp. Now, camp at the time was obviously very popular. You had the Batman series. You had the whole camp movement, which is great. If it's
You
done,
like some of those, though.
I do like
You
some
like
of them.
that stupid, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, which is just one of the god-awfulest films ever made.
I don't consider that camp. That's more of a
It's slapstick.
Well, I like slapstick every once in a while. Excuse me that you don't.
I like some slapstick. That is not one
I
of them.
know.
Okay.
But anyway, that's not... I don't consider that
All right,
camp.
fair enough. Go
This
ahead.
is an attempt at... See, the problem is, what this film is your dad trying to be hip.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
This is what happens when people who are looking at the outside, who are looking from the outside in to a specific culture and decide, well, we're going to market a movie toward them, even though we don't know anything about them or the way they live or their lifestyle, but we'll act like we do.
So that's like what you had actually told me about, where your dad trying to relate to you was like, oh, Springsteen, they call him the boss, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
that face-palming, Dad, please don't try and be cool moment. Now picture that in an entire movie with a whole bunch of people in it that should have known better. Oh, this film is a mess. And it's not funny.
See,
that's the most important.
That's where we disagree. I think it's
That's the
riot.
most egregious sin a comedy can make. The most egregious sin a comedy can ever be is not funny. And this movie is not funny. And it's just trying so hard to be, oh, look at us. We've got a lampshade on our head. How funny are we? Screw that.
I have one like that coming up.
Screw that. Screw you. My number 8, the 60s version of Casino Royale. Bleh.
I think I like it simply because of the craziness of it, but it won't be seen in anytime soon. Or if it is, they'll end up editing all of Woody Allen's part out. I mean, let's face it.
Which is kind of stupid because he's the villain.
I know, that's what I mean. It probably won't be seen anytime because of all the controversy surrounding Woody
They're
again.
still showing his movies on cable. So.
I know. My number 8, I feel really sorry about because I truly love this filmmaker. He's brilliant. He's avant-garde. He takes chances in so many ways. He's stuck in 1930s when it comes to his cinematic style. But not everything Guy Maddin does is perfect. I loved his trilogy of films about Canadian times of past, particularly My Winnipeg, but also The Saddest Music in the World and Brand Upon the Brain. I cannot say the same for his 2000... What year was that? 2000... Come on, get off there. Gotta look it up here. 2011's film Keyhole. Keyhole was an exercise in pretentiousness and gobbledygook. Filmed black and white, some glaring editing errors, and for some unknown... I mean, Madden is known for his unconventional stuff, but I really did not need to see Louis Nagin naked the entire film, chained to the bed of his daughter, played by Isabella Rossellini. Mm-hmm. That was just creepy.
No,
this film,
not needed.
It's a noir film.
It's a noir film with supernatural elements to it, and it's a mess.
And it's a mess from beginning to end, and I hate that because it's got a lot of good people in it. And Jason Patric does a great job doing what he can with Guy's material. I've always liked him, and he's really good at playing these kind of weird characters. But I feel sorry that this didn't take off because Madden, he really, I mean, I first really got into indie cinema when we started doing subject cinema. I would have never looked at a Guy Madden film 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now he's one of my favorite filmmakers, and just because he goes out there. But Keyhole tries too hard to do what he's aiming to do. And the worst part is he misses the mark doing it. Mm-hmm. I love him, and I can't stress that enough, but I just didn't like Keyhole. It's too pretentious. It's my number 8 film.
Okay. My number 7 film, I'm going to be honest, it's on my list even though I didn't finish watching it. I couldn't finish watching it because it was literally making me sick.
I know what this is, and I gave her this because it's a documentary, and she sat through more than half of it, and at my request, and I didn't add it to my list, even though I probably should have. It's not one of my favorites either.
Yeah. My number 7 is a film called Ants on a Shrimp. It is a documentary. It is about this restaurant in Sweden.
They went to Japan for a month.
Right, but it's a European restaurant.
Denmark. It's in Copenhagen.
Yeah, they're considered one of the best restaurants in the world, high Michelin ratings and everything like that. And the guy who runs the restaurant decided he was just going to take his restaurant, all of his workers, and go to Japan for a year. Because...
No, for a month.
For a month.
They only went for a month.
Yeah. He was going to take all of his staff and bring them to Japan and set up his restaurant in Japan for a month because he just decided to do that.
Well, upon the invitation of the people who bankrolled it, yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying, you've got this well-established restaurant in one place and you just decide you're going to pick up, take all of your staff, make them uproot their lives, and go to a country where probably they don't speak the language to work there for a month. Mm-hmm. What?
You have to understand the European food world. You don't get the European food world. This is not out of the norm for them.
If that's the European food world, they can bloody well have it. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the stuff that these people are preparing. Now, and
the title, by the way, is literal.
Yes. That is a dish.
He puts dead ants on a shrimp. Mm-hmm. On shrimp. And vinaigrette.
Yes.
No. Anyway.
I'm watching this man prepare the food that he's preparing, which the place where I went, that's it, I quit, I'm out, was when was it him showing the staff, or was it him just doing it because he was doing it to prepare?
He was showing food? 2 of his sous chefs how to do it.
How to strangle a turtle. And when I say strangle, I mean...
I take exception with that word. No, he wasn't strangling the turtle. He was ripping its shell off.
Right, but he was holding it by... Okay.
Yeah.
De-shelling.
While it was still alive.
Yeah. De-shelling a turtle. Put it that way.
Yeah.
With his hands around its neck while tearing the shell off of a still living animal. Jesus, Mary, and St. Joseph, are you kidding me? Now, I am not a vegan or a vegetarian.
You don't understand the European food world.
Shut up. Shut up. if that's your lifestyle, being a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever, cool. You know, that's your thing.
This movie could make you one.
But, oh, sweet mother in heaven, this movie. And that's the thing. How many slasher movies have I sat through?
Oh, she sat through. My favorite way to describe Kim and her empathy for animals is this way.
Oh, no.
When the Miracle on the Hudson happened, and Sully landed that plane out there in the water and saved his entire passenger list, I was talking to Kim about it, and her first thoughts were, what happened to the geese? No clue, no anything about the people on board the plane.
You already said the plane landed safely, so I knew everybody on the plane was okay.
Are the geese okay? No, honey.
Excuse me for caring. Excuse me for having a heart. I'm sorry. And just watching them make this food and I'm sure this food tastes great to people who are willing to pay. I don't even want to.
No, they just like to pretend it tastes great so they can tell their friends they're there.
They've eaten at this place.
Yeah.
No.
Although, I mean, sometimes I love New Scandinavian Cooking with Andreas Wiestedt. I love that show, but sometimes the stuff he makes and the stuff he gets when he goes to these restaurants blows my mind. He went to some big restaurant, again, in the Scandinavian area. Not Denmark, but I think it was somewhere in Norway, where they were serving him these little tiny pieces of dishes, and they were shaving dried reindeer heart over it. And I'm like, nobody in the real world is going to eat this. Okay?
Not unless they're like in The Revenant or something like that. No. No. So my number 7, ants on a shrimp. I'm sorry. If that's your kind of bag, that's your kind of bag. Yeah. If you have the money to spend on that kind of stuff, great. I can think of 20
better. I can think of 20 better foodie docs. Honestly, number 7 on my list is a film I really wanted to love. Its premise sounded off the wall hilarious. It got really good reviews at one of the festivals that year. I can't remember whether it was Sundance or South by Southwest, and it was high on my list of movies to see when it came to Boston. We didn't see it at the theater. It was only there for a week when we were broke, but we caught it when it came on cable, when it came on demand. And I've never really recuperated, because not only is it extremely pretentious in its portrayal, the entire film takes the premise, which is supposed to be a satire / parody, and makes it pretentious too. So it's not fun to make fun of, and it's not fun to watch, and overall, it's not funny. 2010's Rubber.
I didn't even think of that. Oh, I feel so
Rubber is too hip for the room. Eric and Amber Lyon love this film. Or maybe it's Eric and Courtney, one of the other Lyon daughters, loved this film. They thought it was hilarious. Valerie and the other daughter didn't like it at all. So credit to Valerie for having good taste. Rubber is about a sentient tire named Robert, who happens to have telekinesis, and he terrorizes a small town in the American Southwest. While up on a bluff above the town, a bunch of people are gathered to watch the carnage through binoculars. Now, I'm sorry, this premise sounds funny to me. And the reviews sounded funny. And the trailer was funny, which we saw at Trailer Treats that year. Mm-hmm. I've never been so disappointed in a film, I don't think ever, from the expectation to the actual film. Because it's just, to me, worthless. It puts itself and its humor and its, oh, aren't we being edgy, writing and presentation ahead of the actual humor that should be there.
Right.
And it doesn't, it just isn't funny. And it's not, I mean, the cinematography is appealing. I mean, I'll give you that. And the idea of a sentient telekinetic rubber tire would work under the hands of James Nguyen, possibly, or even Tommy Wiseau. But it did not work here. And this guy has made a career on this movie with several other critically acclaimed satires, none of which I bothered with because I didn't like this one. My number 7, 2010's, or 2011 maybe. Let me check real quick. No, 2010's Rubber.
Okay.
Allegedly a comic horror film.
Right.
It's actually just pretentious crap.
Number 6 on my list is, I know some people are probably going to be very upset with me that this is on my list. I don't care. I never saw this film. I'd heard about this film all of my life, and we got a chance to see it, and because of a mishap that happened while we were at the film, I had to wind up seeing it by myself. My number 6.
Oh, okay.
My number 6 is Carnival of Souls from 1962. We saw this last year at a screening of Riff Tracks Live.
She ended up seeing it by herself because I dumped my Jagundo Coke all over myself and had to come home and take a shower. I was pissed.
Yeah. He told me to stay because it didn't make sense for both of us to lose out on the money.
Yeah.
So he went home and I stayed and watched the movie. I've heard of Carnival of Souls for most of my life, and it's every book when I was a younger person checked out of the library on horror movies. There were always stills from this film, and all people talked about it and all this stuff like that. So I was like, okay. So we're watching the movie, and I'm sitting there, and the Riff Tracks guys are doing what they do, making fun of the film and all this. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching this movie, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this movie is really not good.
Well, that's why it's Riff Tracks, honey.
They Riff Tracks Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, well, that's true, too.
I was sitting there watching Carnival of Souls going, this isn't good. This is actually kind of bad. Holy crap, do other people in the audience know this? Am I the only person that realizes this? The thing is, it's just that it tries so hard to be shocking. The whole story of the film being a woman that survives a car crash, and then you find out the shocking twist ending, which if you've seen more than 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone, you figured out the first time within the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I was like...
She actually told me you actually did the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, the stuff, the stuff Mike, Bill, and Kevin was saying were great. But I was just like, why? Why do people go crazy? I mean, maybe I'm just too cynical, and maybe it's because of the time I grew up in, but I'm just like, I don't see what's frightening about this. I didn't have any overwhelming feeling of dread while watching it. I just was like, they're trying too hard to make this something it isn't. That's just my opinion for what it's worth. My number 6, Carnival of Souls. If you have hate mail, you can send it to me.
My number 6 is a film that is by a critically acclaimed director, and it is, he has a large legion of fans. And when his film came out a few years ago, I said, can I get a screener for this? I want to see it. Because I want to see what everybody's been raving about. Kim didn't watch it with me, so she was spared this. I sat there and I watched this for the almost 2-hour running time. And my mind is going like, oh my God, really? Mm-hmm. From 2015, director Jim Cohen's Counting. Counting is a visual film. There's very little dialogue in it. You're supposed to see the visuals of what's going on around you. Mm-hmm. 15 distinctive segments comprising, they're supposed to be a way of looking at cinema and city life, according to the information. Street life, the way that light affects street life, the way that dark affects street life. Oh my God, by the first 30 minutes, I was pulling my hair out. This is... I'm a visual movie lover. I mean, I love the Scotsy trilogy by Godfrey Riggio. I loved Samsara by his cinematographer. I've forgotten his name. And I love films with good visuals, even if I don't like the film, as you'll see in a couple of minutes. But this was just excruciating to get through. It was shot all over the world, from Istanbul to Russia to New York. Some of the segments were 3 minutes long, others were 20 minutes long. It wasn't always easy to decipher what was going on. And I feel badly because I really wanted to like this movie. It sounded like my kind of visual experience. And it wasn't. It's just like, I have no idea what the director is trying to say here.
Right.
I get one way in one segment, and another segment sends me another direction. And as I said, within the first 30 minutes, I was pulling my hair out. I just couldn't figure it out. I stuck with it. I saw the whole film. And I can't recommend it. Visually, it's fine. I mean, in some places. In others, really great. But you need to know what you're saying when you come in. And to me, pretentiousness is also a word in film for vagueness. If you are too vague, then therefore you are pretentious. And that is why Counting from 2015 is number 6 on my list.
Okay. Number 5, I actually kind of had noticed that I'd done this. Number 5 and number 4 on my list are by the same person, and that was not an intended thing to do.
Okay.
My number 5 is Blue Velvet. Good grief. I saw Blue Velvet.
I thought you liked Blue Velvet.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I saw Blue Velvet after it came out in the theaters. I saw it once it came on cable. And David Lynch's noir film set in a small town, looking at the seamy underbelly of things, you know, the side of stuff that we don't normally see, what goes on behind closed doors, blah, blah, blah. I just remember watching this movie and going, what? You know, I'm serious. All I heard people talk about this film was how it's so edgy and so different, and David Lynch has created this whole twisted universe, and you simply must see this film. So I'm like, all right, this is at a point when I, as a film person, am starting to become a film person and looking outside the multiplex stuff and trying to see things that are a little different. And I'm watching this movie going, what the actual hell is this?
It's a David Lynch
film.
film.
It's a David Lynch movie. I mean, as I got older, I was like, okay, fine. But seriously, this is still one of my least favorite David Lynch films. I just don't like it. I feel like, again, it's trying too hard. So, my number 5, Blue Velvet.
My number 5 was one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year that year, and I never could get past it. Visually, it's nice to look at, I suppose. And I can't say that it's badly shot or badly acted. But the overall air of the film is that, you must feel compassion in ways that we will make you feel compassion for this poor, unfortunate man. The problem is the man is completely unlikable, suicidal, a drug addict, and you really don't feel any compassion for him because he's a self-centered asshole. My number 5 is Oslo, August 31st from 2011. Mm-hmm. Anders is a 30-year-old man who is throwing his life away. At the very beginning of the film, we see him try to commit suicide by filling his pockets with rocks and taking a jump in the nearby river behind the rehab he's been living in for the past several months trying to get over a drug problem. They give him a day pass, not knowing about the suicide attempt, to go have an interview for a job in Oslo, and he spends the time, he deliberately blows off bombs the interview, makes it, does things to make it go badly. And then he goes and visits old friends who keep telling him, we want you around, we miss you. Don't do anything stupid. But he's still mooning over the girlfriend that he lost when he went into rehab. He went to New York. Mm-hmm. So, in a fit of, wanting to get things done, we see him go to his parents' home. They're not there. He sits down, plays this beautiful song on the piano, and then overdoses on heroin. The end. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for this character. I was so freaking angry when we came out of this film.
That was a fun afternoon.
We were both. You were pissed too.
Oh yeah.
It's like we spent 2 hours and 15 minutes seeing this critically acclaimed love film, and it's absolutely worthless. Not only is it bad in terms of nothing to give you. You go into this film and you get nothing in return. It rips everything out of you. To me, you've got to get something in return. The pretentious message behind it is secondary to being able to try and glean something out of it. My next film, I'm going to complain about the same thing. Number 5, I would advise that you see it once because it is beautiful. It shows off Oslo in ways that you've never seen it, and it's just terrific, but be prepared to be utterly depressed when you come out of it. Number 5, Oslo, August 31st.
Okay.
Quite possibly one of the most overrated films of all time.
All right. Number 4, as you may have guessed, is another David Lynch film. Number 4 on my list is Dune. Dune.
We differ on this. I actually like Dune, but I like the TV cut.
Dune was a film that I saw because my dad, in an attempt to reach out to me, knew I was a science fiction fan and noticed that this film was on cable and was like, hey, this is a science fiction movie and it's 3 hours long. It must be great, and I was like, oh, okay, great, terrific. By the end of this movie, I remember lying there on the couch thinking to myself, oh God, please let this movie end sometime before I die. This movie is crushingly pretentious. It's a space opera with messianic overtones. You have
the book is too.
I realize that the Frank Herbert book series is ponderous, and
it's ponderous, man, real ponderous.
But from what I understand, people can actually get something out of it. What I got out of this movie was a migraine. Characters come in. They're there for 2 seconds, say 2 lines, and disappear, and you never see them again.
And they're trying to remake it again, which is really frightening.
And it just goes on and on and on, and tack about 12 more ons onto that. It's just, oh man, I was just like, oh God, when is this movie going to be over? Please. I still couldn't tell you what it was about, even if you asked me. I honestly couldn't tell you, and I watched the
spice of life.
And I watched the whole thing.
I've seen both the theatrical version and the Alan Smithy cut, which David Lynch took his name off of. I like the Alan Smithy cut better. It makes it make more sense. But it's still out there.
My number 4, Dune.
You're going to agree with me on this as far as the movie itself. I don't know if it's on your list or not, but it's because this is one of those movies that, for inexplicable reasons, got these rave reviews when it played the festival circuit. And I'm like, oh my God, we must see this. It got terrific reviews. This is one of those films I'll never hear the end of. Because it's a movie when you go in, you don't really know what's going on from the very beginning. They don't give you any introduction to the characters. You're just kind of thrown into the situation. You have to figure it out for yourself. Then about 20 minutes into the movie, something devastating happens to the couple that's the center of the film, changes their relationship forever, and then we spend 30 minutes walking and walking and walking and walking and walking in total silence. No score, no anything. Number 4, 2011's The Loneliest Planet. This film has 2 saving graces. They're not either one worth watching the whole film for. Number 1, it won my Poppy Award for Best Cinematography because the film is luscious to look at. It's filmed in the Ural Mountains, I believe, in Russia, and it was beautiful. One of the Russian mountain ranges. I don't remember which one. The other saving...
Georgia, isn't it? Well, it's set in Georgia. I don't
remember.
I'm not sure.
Its other saving grace is co-star Hani Furstenberg's drunken rendition of the children's classic song Don Gato, which is hilarious. I will admit that is the one part of the film I truly loved. The rest of this film is so heavy with pretension that it's difficult for you to get off the floor. I love Gael Garcia Bernal. He's one of my favorite actors. Hani Furstenberg is really good here too. But this film, I don't know, it acts like it's smarter than you. It acts like it knows more than you. That the decisions that you would make would be completely wrong. And the one thing that happens in this film, if you see it with a loved one, is destined to trigger a screaming match before the night is over.
Yep.
Kim and I were screaming at each other for 2 days after we saw this film. At various parts of the thing.
Yep. This film...
I hate this film. I love the cinematography. I like Don Gato. Overall, I hate it with a passion.
This film is the anti-Casablanca.
Number 4, The Loneliest Planet from 2011.
Okay. Number 3 on my list is... I hated this movie. It's so unbearably pretentious and so unbearably, look how different we are. We're so much more different than you bourgeoisie Americans, and we're just so effing special.
Oh, I know what this is going to be.
My number 3 is Film Socialism. Directed by Jean-Luc Godard. It is
the master of French pretension.
It is a film that's set up in 3 parts. The first part is on a cruise ship.
Which was shot on the Costa Concordia.
Yep.
Which would later sink off the coast of Crete?
I think so,
I
yeah.
don't remember which island it tipped over.
The second part is set at a gas station, and the third part is set in just all different sites all over the world. Good grief. This film just had me sitting there going... That
was my idea, too. Sorry.
You know, I'm sorry. I just was sitting there with this film going, okay. Now, I have no problem with films in other languages. I certainly have no problem with that. But I just was sitting there going, okay, you're trying to be irritating, aren't you, movie? Guess what? You've succeeded. By the end of this film, I was sufficiently pissed that I don't think I talked to you for about an hour.
Yeah, you were upset with me. And I was sick. I was homesick that day, too.
Yeah, and I was just like... Because I'm telling myself, I need to not talk to him because everything out of my mouth for the next hour is going to have the F-bomb.
You did this to me!
Is going to have the F-bomb in it and is going to end with you idiot. So I told myself, no, I'm just going to go in the other room until I calm down. That took an hour. It's just... Oh! It's so... I am a film. Capital F. And I am so special. Cram it. You know, just effing cram it. My number 3, Film Socialism. Ugh.
My number 3 is a film I really thought I would really like because of the description. It was from a young filmmaker. It was his first time out. A narrative film that was being compared to Gus Van Sant. And I was a big fan of Paranoid Park and a couple of other films similar to it, as well as the documentary Only the Young. And I was like, this sounds really interesting. Unfortunately, it was everything but. My number 3 is 2012's Pavilion, directed by Tim Sutton. Tim, I'm sorry, I'm one of the few people that don't like this film. For starters, it can barely be called a film. It's only 68 minutes long. Number 2, it is incomprehensible as being kind. It starts off as this story about these teenagers and then switches over to the story about another teenager who walked in the last scene and all the other teenagers are then gone. And then it spends time with him and then goes to another area with yet another group of teens after leaving this other one hanging and again not returning to this teenager. All trying to get through life as teenagers in this idyllic lakeside town where the second teenager's father has moved in Arizona. If the story had been comprehensible, I would have enjoyed this. He was using non-actors. These were real kids in their first movie, and they were real teenagers. They were very good at it. The same way Gabe Nevins did in Paranoid Park, and some other younger actors have done in other movies. It didn't have any sense of connection. It's supposed to be interconnected, and yet characters came and disappeared all the time from one segment to another, and it wasn't connected. The general thing was, life is not a party. We have to figure out something to get through our lives because we're teenagers and we suck. That was the general premise I got from this film. It was shot beautifully. He shot it on 16 millimeter, which is really grainy in places, and it looks beautiful the way he intended it to do. But I was sitting there going, well, this is a waste of an hour and 15 minutes. And I really, really wanted to like it, and I just couldn't. Number 3, I don't still to this day know what Tim Sutton was trying to say with Pavilion. And if anybody else has seen it and would like to explain it to me, please do.
Okay. Number 2 on my list of most pretentious films is on my list because any negative stuff I can fling at this film, that suits me. I mean, it is a pretentious film.
Could we have possibly tied on something? Okay, let's see.
It is a pretentious film, but it's also just boring, incomprehensible. The characters are unlikable, and the end of this movie had me turning into a slavering rage monster.
Oh my god, we did tie on this film.
My number 2 from 2011, The Future.
My number 2 is Miranda July's The Future.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay.
Let's discuss The Future. The Future.
If this is the future, shoot me now.
This was another one of TC's. TC gets the blame because he fell for the hype from Sundance. Yeah. Just like The Loneliest Planet before.
And like crazy.
The same year, actually.
And like crazy.
Well, like crazy, I had that won the Grand Prize Award.
I know.
But it is on my runners-up list.
Okay. The Future is the story of Sophie and Jason, who are a couple for reasons that I have no idea why, who decide they are going to adopt a cat who they name Paw Paw. Most of the story is narrated by Paw Paw. Paw Paw, as it turns out, is a cat with several medical conditions that once they adopt her, is it a her?
Yes.
Most of their time will be spent caring for this cat. Okay, that sounds a little overwhelming, but if that's, what you're looking to do.
That's what they believe. I don't know whether or not that's actually the case, but that's how they view it.
Yeah, that's how they view it.
And I'm thinking to myself, then why adopt the cat?
To which I'm kind of like, okay, that's taking a lot on, but good for you. The thing is, they decide before they can adopt said cat, before they're allowed, because the cat has to go through all these medical procedures, they need to do everything in their life that they want to get done so they can devote all of their time to caring for Papa. Again, a little weird, but okay. This boils down to a lot of pretentious nonsense that as the film continues, I'm going from, okay, these people...
It starts to go into a mind-trippy area that makes no sense at all.
Okay, this is going from, okay, these people are mildly eccentric, to, okay, these people are kind of annoying, to, he's a spineless jellyfish and she's a complete...
lunatic.
Umbrage.
Okay.
By the end of this film, don't do it, the one line that gets me to the point of going from 0 to rage monster faster than you can say, what the hell just happened? Oh, go on.
And then it happened. I died.
He literally had to... You grabbed me, didn't you? Didn't you grab a hold of my arm?
We were sitting next to each other at the Brattle seeing this film. Miranda July was in the second row. She was the director as well and writer. My hand went onto her arm, and I was sitting there going, oh, dear Lord, do not let her have a freak-out attack. Not with the filmmaker in attendance.
He's literally holding me down. He's literally not hurting me, but holding...
I was basically holding her just to say, it's okay, you'll get through this, take a deep breath.
As he's feeling me vibrate with rage. I have never wanted, and I mentioned this before, I have never walked out of a film in my life. I have wanted to run.
You came close with The Tempest.
You would have had to have carried me out of The Tempest because I almost fell asleep. I wanted to run out of Pet Cemetery, but my friend had an arm lock on me and wouldn't let me leave and go hide in the ladies' room. I can't deal with dead animals. What do you want from me?
I know.
But I wanted to storm out of the future. Coat flapping in the breeze, shrieking at the top of my lungs about a refund, everything. This is one of the most pretentious pieces of shite I have ever seen in my life.
And I know exactly the moment when I found it to be a terribly pretentious movie.
When?
About 7 or 10 minutes into the film, when they've made this decision, and suddenly it's Sophie's most important thing in life to be able to make a successful dance video for YouTube.
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me?
That's your life, huh? That's the hill you want to die on,
The sad
really?
thing is, I like the character of Jason. He's a sweet guy. And he really loves Sophie, and she doesn't see that. She completely ignores that.
Sophie is a selfish douchebag.
Selfish is a self-absorbed, selfish douchebag. And she, at the end of the movie, not only does Papa die, she breaks Jason's heart and leaves him for this other weirdo that she met through something to do with her art.
Yeah.
And I'm
Who's
like,
got a kid that digs holes in the backyard and buries herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, these people are not well.
It was just, and to our satisfaction, when the lights came up and the credits started rolling, instead of the rapturous applause you generally get at films running at the Independent Film Festival Boston, you kind of got, okay, is it over? Let's get the hell out of here, Martha. Come on. Oh my God, that was terrible.
Yeah.
It was the lamest applause I've ever seen in any film we've ever seen there.
No, it isn't.
What was?
I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, okay.
Actually, before, just to dwell on this for just one more second, when the lights came up, and it was like, oh, and Miranda July's here. TC's got me by the arm. Come on, honey, we're going now. I mean, I was not about to walk up to the woman and say, your film sucks, never make a film again.
No.
But I would...
She was actually speaking to our friends Michael and Scott from Clotrudis.
Yeah, it's not like I was going to walk up to her and, like, spit in her face or something. That wouldn't have happened.
No, but it was...
He's like holding onto my arm. Come on, baby, let's go. Because one thing that
You're making me sound terrible. Will you stop that?
No.
I wasn't doing that. I was simply going, I'm not staying. Let's go down here. Because thankfully they didn't have a Q&A. I have a feeling she would have been skewered.
Yeah.
And they knew it.
If they had a Q&A, my question would have been, what the F was that? Seriously. But no, you did have your arm around my shoulder, and you're like, let's go this way now.
And then when we got downstairs and out the door, who's standing there but Miranda July and Michael and Scott?
Yeah. Arm still around my shoulder. Let's go this way!
Hi, guys. Let's go this way.
He's going, calm down. It's okay. No, I'm not trying to make you sound bad. I'm making myself sound bad. I know I'm making myself sound
This is her cat love.
I know I'm making myself sound like the queen of histrionics.
Out
but,
and out screaming fest going on. My number 2 is the future. What about you?
Okay. My number 1 is 2013's COG.
It's on my runner-up list.
Okay. Directed by Kyle Patrick Alvarez, starring Jonathan Groff and Dennis O'Hare, Casey Wilson, a bunch of other people. It's the story of David, who is a thoroughly unlikable young man trying to find himself. And this film has there's actually two nice characters in the film. Out of a film that's got a pretty large...
Casey Wilson's one of them. What's the other? Who's the other one?
Her husband.
Oh, okay.
I've forgotten who played the husband. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
This film is so incredibly hateful. It's hateful and mean-spirited. It's extremely anti-Christian. And you know what? I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. If you want to hate on religion, fine.
Well, coming to his defense, David Sedaris has been a gay rights activist for many, many years, and he had to put up with a lot of anti-gay bullcrap when he was growing up, I'm sure.
I understand that.
And just out. And so that's where a lot of that anger comes from, but it is very anti-Christian.
I do understand that. And to everybody who's ever been, abused or picked on or bullied or whatever by people claiming to be good Christians by trying to save you from being gay, speaking as a Christian and a Catholic, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Because myself personally, love who you love.
Right.
And I'm cool with that. But I just feel like this film is just so nasty. It's nasty to everybody. The main character is unlikable. Pretty much everybody in this film is a user or a predator or just a not nice person. And I realize not everybody out there is, sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows and wants to be your friend. But I'm sorry. At least in those kind of films, I care about the protagonist.
Yeah.
I want the protagonist to succeed or be happy or learn something or whatever. This kid, I was like, no.
No.
Nope. Nothing. So my number one, COG.
We actually saw that at the Mass Indie Film Festival.
Okay. And that was another film that people were like, should we applaud?
Yeah, but it got critical raves again at Sundance, which is another reason why I wanted to go see it. And I love Jonathan Groff, but it's like, wow. My number one, you've already mentioned, and it's just, I feel so terrible for bringing it up. But I thought it was important for us to see it when it was getting such great reviews. But I should have known when Ebert said it was the most pretentious thing he'd ever seen. And he accused the filmmaker of being lazy. I'll tell you why in a minute. I should have known better than to ask for us to sit down and watch this, but we did. Mm-hmm. Number one, Film Socialism. Jean-Luc Godard's 2011 Ode to Socialism, I guess.
Ode to something.
The bad thing is, it's beautifully shot. The scenes that are shot on the Costa Concordia before its accident are beautiful. The pictures and the view of the waves and the churning of the water is terrific. The rest of the movie is filmed beautifully too. It's just so damn boring and so damn self-involved. And Godard did not release it theatrically with proper subtitles. I said something nasty. I didn't mean it to be nasty. Godard is a great filmmaker, and in his early days, he made some of the greatest films of all time. Mm-hmm. Trouble is, as he's gotten older, a lot of the film critics have turned on him because he continues to get more and more pretentious. And this film, Roger Ebert gave this film 1 star. He hated it. He released the film with subtitles in something he called Navajo English. Now, they were just 3 words coming in and out of the screen on a regular basis that had often nothing to do with what was going on.
Yeah. So you'd be watching a scene of somebody dancing and it would say like umbrella pudding, escalator.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Quite that random.
It wasn't quite that random, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Now, I watched the movie again by myself with the proper subtitles, and they weren't much better. Visually, I love the Costa Concordia scenes, especially the shots of the water. But this film is so full of itself, it's scary. Mm-hmm. I'm just like,
seriously,
God.
If this film was a person, you could imagine it standing in the center spotlight of a dark stage going, I am a film. you know, with these grand sweeping
Acting.
gestures. Yeah. You could totally see that. And I am honest to blog, not trying to be a wise ass right now, but am I wrong about that?
No. Although some film critics just loved it.
I know.
Ignacy Vindashevsky. I'm sorry, dude.
Sooner or later,
Of
we will get his name
movie.com, and at the time he was on At the Movies with Siskel and Ebert Presents At the Movies. He adored this film, and that was why I decided we gave this a chance. But, oh, God, I'm so sorry. And let me apologize to you publicly. For all of these films I have been suckered into from the film festivals.
That's okay.
Because I really want to see them, and then they turn out to be crap. So I apologize. Although Film Socialism was not one of those. But, a lot of them on your list are.
Oh. So let's go over our list again.
Alrighty.
Actually, you should go over your runners-up.
My runners-up were a number of films that I just couldn't bring myself to include on the list, but I thought they were pretentious in some way or another. Dolls, which is a Takeshi Kitano film. I feel terrible about saying that about one of his films because I love him so much. Chariots of Fire. Watermark Pompeii, which was too important for itself.
I was going to say,
it envisioned itself as a grand disaster film, and it was really just a pile of crap. And Kiefer Sutherland overacting. The Fifth Estate, COG, Like Crazy. Again, I hate saying that because I love Anton and Jennifer and Felicity, but it's just terrible. Cold Weather, which I was extremely disappointed with. It's an Aaron Katz film that I loved. Quiet City, and this was just terrible. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and JFK.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
JFK bothers me because while it's a good film, everybody knew Garrison's theories had been debunked by the time the movie was made. Except apparently Oliver Stone.
Okay.
So, anyway.
All right, that's fair.
My top... go ahead.
Okay, so my top 10 most pretentious films going from 10 to 1. Number 10, American Graffiti. Number 9, Barbarella. Number 8, Casino Royale, the 1960s version. Number 7, Ants on a Shrimp. Number 6, Carnival of Souls. Number 5, Blue Velvet. Number 4, Dune. Number 3, Film Socialism. Number 2, The Future. And number 1, COG.
My top 10 are number 10, The Strange Little Cat, which is a great film. It's deliberately pretentious. And it's well done. Number 9, Surviving Progress. Number 8, Keyhole. Number 7, Rubber. Number 7, Counting. Number 6, Counting. Number 5, Oslo, August 31st. Number 4, The Loneliest Planet. Number 3, Pavilion. Number 2, The Future. I can't believe we tied on that. And number 1, Film Socialism.
Okay.
We had two. I was surprised that you didn't have Loneliest Planet on your list. I got to be honest, because I know you didn't like it either. And you thought it was pretentious as hell.
I thought it was pretentious and definitely.
I'm surprised Strange Little Cat wasn't on your list. Because I know you don't like that film as much as I do. I think it's a brilliant piece of work.
I blocked that movie out of my mind.
One movie I was telling her that I found was people who aren't familiar, like us. Some of them might find Pina pretentious. But then again, Pina is beautiful to look at. The dance work in it, and it's amazing. I fell head over heels in love with it.
I know you did.
Even though it is extremely pretentious in places. You weren't as nearly as enamored with it as I was.
I found it extremely uncomfortable for me.
The dirt thing especially, I know.
The dirt
but the rest
thing,
of it.
No, not just the dirt thing.
Really? Okay.
The whole thing where the one woman that's standing absolutely still and they keep poking at her and all that.
Okay. That's right, yeah.
No, I can't deal with that. Sorry, I have triggers. I'm sorry.
It was a great film, but it is pretentious but it's an example of a film that's pretentious in a good way. And so is another film that I saw last year that I didn't want to put on my list because I didn't feel it was...
I kind of don't know if... See, to me, the way of saying pretentious but in a good way, to me, that's arty or artsy.
Artsy, but it's still... Some people would consider it pretentious.
Well, some people would probably consider all of our films artsy and not pretentious, and we're just a bunch of boobs.
But the artsiness is... The problem is the artsiness is what makes it pretentious, like Rubber and The Future. The other one that I'd seen recently that I genuinely liked, but I found was a little pretentious in its presentation was a film called Memoria, which I've talked about with Sam Dillon and Thomas Mann. It's another one of these tiny films. It's an hour and 10 minutes. It's a brilliant study in a teenage mind, troubled mind, but it has its definite pretentious moments, including the entire main thing of the film, which causes a lot of the stuff is completely impossible to see. It's so dark. So that's artsy, I suppose, but anyway.
Okay.
We hope you like this, and we'd love to know what films you think are pretentious. Drop us a line at frontrow@PNRNetworks.com or subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com.
And we'd love to know your opinions of our list. If you think that we were right, if you think we were wrong. If you think we were wrong, tell us why you think we were wrong. And we'd love to hear those too. It's my turn.
It is your turn.
Uh-oh. No, I think this is going to be a good one.
I hope so.
My top 10 challenge for next week are for you and me to each pick our top 10 nail-bitingest scenes. The scenes that had you sitting there going, you just can't, you're just completely sitting on the edge of your seat for whatever reason.
Limited to TV or movies or what?
You can, I had just movies.
Just movies. No, let's leave it then. Let's limit it to movies then. We'll have it done.
Just scenes in movies that had you going, what's going to happen next? Oh, I can't take it. That kind of thing. And they don't have to be scary scenes. They can just be, real tension-filled scenes. So it'll be fun to see what we both come up with.
Yeah, that will be actually. I have to think about that, but I bet I can come up with some good stuff. Mm-hmm. Don't forget to check out all of our other shows on the PNR Networks family of shows. Subject Cinema every Saturday now in the evening with all kinds of great stuff. This is Masochistic March, if you're listening to this day and date.
Yep.
Masochistic March is going on now, and our Boston Spring the Festival shows are coming up in May.
Yep.
That's at subjectcinema.com and eCinemaOne.com. Also, our other sister shows from Subject Cinema, 3-Minute Weekend on Fridays with all the latest films in theaters, and Tuesday Digidex with all the latest home video releases on Tuesday morning. I hope you guys, if you're interested, will check out the podcasts that I do by myself. Those would include Platinum Rose's Garden and Ring Around the Rosie. Platinum Rose's Garden is my Supernatural podcast where I talk about the CW show Supernatural, of which I am an enormous fan. And I hope you can check that out. And over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com. Ring Around the Rosie over at ringaroundtherosie.net is my wrestling podcast. I have been a wrestling fan for 30 plus years, and I have a lot of opinions about stuff. I would like to bring up that both of those shows are not safe for work unless you've got earbuds in, because I swear a lot. Like a truck driver.
Yay, First Amendment.
And don't forget our 2 shows from our wonderful offshoots. Cavebabble.com over at Cavebabble podcast over at Cavebabble.com. Eric and Valerie Lyon talking about movies, games, music, TV. Cavebabble Eats Odd Things and Other Things. And Comic Grotto with Aunt B and Pee-wee. Comics and their relationship to reading them and also to the movies and television that are made from them. And that's over at comicgrotto.net.
And your show as well.
Catastrophe Vortex, Mondays in the evenings. It's finally back and running. I hope everyone will check it out at catastrophevortex.com. Until next time, I suppose.
Yep. I hope that you guys will come back next week. This is Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham.
And I hope we can count on you to come back next week here on Front Row 5 and 10 and count up our next list with us here.
Yay!
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.
You've been listening to Front Row 5 and 10 with Kim Brown and T.C. Kirkham.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.